Overnight, Israeli swarming drones have invaded the Gaza Strip on Friday morning and killed 30 Gazans, including children. In Peru, the Public Prosecutor's Office of Central Lima intervened in some offices of the Congress following a report of an alleged prostitution network. And South Korean authorities on Friday called off an operation to arrest President Yoon Suk Yeol following the declaration of martial law last December. Hello and welcome to From the South. My name is Belén de los Santos. I'm from teleSUR Studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Now we begin with the information. Overnight, Israeli swarming drones have invaded the Gaza Strip on Friday morning and killed around 30 Gazans, including children. At the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, the staff referred that tens of women and children were hit to death in the middle of the Gaza Strip, including Nusrat, Suwaida, Al-Maghazi, and Deir al-Balah areas. Meanwhile, Israeli forces issued an order to evacuate immediately the Indonesian hospital, which is full of women and children, some injured who cannot even move in northern Gaza, whereas the regime keeps on firing nearby that care center. Currently, the Israeli army aims at broadening its operations in this area. Nonetheless, both Israeli and Palestinian sides are negotiating a ceasefire, among other issues, with mediating nations as Qatar and Egypt. And the spokesperson of the Palestinian Civil Defense, Mohammed Basal, announced that what is happening now in the Gaza Strip, especially in the city of Gaza, is a clear madness for the Israeli occupation forces, and we can no longer respond to all the calls for help in light of the continuous shelling and attacks that have not stopped.
We were sleeping in God's safety. We had nothing to do with anything. The people were all civilians. We woke up to the missile strike. We found the whole house disintegrated, the martyrs dismembered, the women and children dismembered, all civilians. The Israelis target only civilians.
We continue in Palestine. Dozens of people flocked to a local clinic run by UNICEF-supported Ard Allison Association for medical checkups for their malnourished children. By the end of August 2024, the United Nations found that nearly 15,000 children in the Gaza Strip were suffering from malnutrition, including 2,288 children with severe acute malnutrition, after screening some 240,000 children in the region. Displaced families report weakened immunity among their children due to hunger and malnutrition, increasing their vulnerability to cold waves. In addition, the number of deaths among displaced people due to freezing temperatures have also increased in recent days. And despite this context, Palestinians reaffirm their firm commitment to the struggle to regain their inalienable rights, despite the Israeli ongoing genocidal attacks against the civilian population of the Gaza Strip. The resistance of Gazans in the face of the Israeli war machine that has killed tens of thousands of people is evidenced by stories like that of a 50-year-old pediatrician and father of 6, Dr. Khaled al-Saidi. Khaled's neighborhood was attacked, resulting in an injury to his left leg that required amputation. Despite this injury and other challenges he has faced, Khaled remains committed to his work and continues his humanitarian mission with determination and dedication. He is currently working at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in the city of Deir al-Balah.
I am Dr. Khaled Ahmed al-Saidi from Al-Buraj camp in the central Gaza Strip. I work in Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital. I was injured after the attack on our house in the area. I was displaced and took refuge in the hospital shortly after the war began. However, the area where my wife and children were was attacked, which led me to bring them to the hospital, where we have been since then. After the amputation, I spent some time unable to move because of the wound. I decided to go back to work because I believe that medicine is not only a profession, but also a humanitarian and service mission that cannot be abandoned. One must defy adversity, conditions, and disabilities. My return to work was important not only for the patients, but for myself.
And we go now to Syria as the Zionist regime of Israel carried out several attacks in different areas of the country, including a factory of the Syrian defense industry. According to media reports, Israeli warplanes illegally entered Syrian airspace on Thursday night, causing massive explosions in the city of Aleppo. The explosions in the southeast of Aleppo correspond to the destruction of several defense industry factories in the suburbs of the city of Al-Safida. So far, there is no information about possible casualties and the amount of damage. The Zionist regime continues its attack against the region under the pretext of the alleged presence of Iran in the Arab country. Now we have a short break coming up, but before we invite you to join our TikTok channel at teleSUR English, where you will find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. We continue with the information. In the United States, 2 people were killed and 18 were injured when a small plane crashed into the roof of a commercial building in Southern California on Thursday. The crash occurred at 2:15 p.m. local time in Fullerton. Firefighters and police arrived on the scene, fought a fire that broke out, and evacuated surrounding businesses. The fire damaged the warehouse, which appeared to contain sewing machines and fabrics. The building was occupied by Michael Nicholas Designs, a manufacturer of furniture upholstery. The Fullerton Police Department said that the pilot died in the crash. 10 people were taken to the hospital and 8 were treated and released at the scene. We stay in the U.S. as in New Orleans, the police completed their on-site investigation following the lately incident in which U.S. Army veteran Shamsuddin Jabbar intentionally crashed his pickup truck into a crowd of revelers on Bourbon Street, taking at least 14 lives and injuring 30 others. Locals have paid tribute to the fatal victims by creating a makeshift memorial nearby in which they have laid 14 yellow roses along a wall, erected crosses, and even an indie jazz band performed a traditional music homage to them. In addition, workers around the place said to be sad, uptight for the rapid reopening of the site, as well as they are frightened into their future safety as violent incidents are on the upward trend lately in this neighborhood. And in this regard, during her morning press conference, the President of Mexico, Claudia Sheinbaum, condemned the violent incident and expressed her solidarity to the families of the victims.
First, we condemn these acts, and as always, our solidarity goes to the families of the victims. There are 2 Mexicans in New Orleans who were there visiting. The consulate is already attending them, approaching them for anything they may need.
And we continue in Mexico as the first migrant caravan of 2025 heading to the U.S. started on Thursday with at least 1,500 people who began their pilgrimage from different countries in South America, Central America, and the Caribbean. According to reports, this new migratory wave began in the town of Tapachula in the state of Chiapas in southeastern Mexico. The migrants began their journey along the coastal highway and have already reached their first destination, the municipality of Huehuetan, to continue their procession toward Huixtla. The migrants seek to reach the U.S. before the inauguration of President-elect Donald Trump.
Walking is not a crime. the comrades are going to do it. We ask Dr. Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo to help migrant women and children and not let them walk. Provide them with buses to get to Mexico.
And in Bolivia, the government approved 5 supreme decrees to boost the productivity sector and the country's economy. The Minister of Economy and Public Finances, Marcelo Montenegro, explained that the first decree is within the framework of import substitution and the industrialization program of the government of President Luis Arce. In addition, the other decrees include a zero tax on the import of hydrocarbons, mainly gasoline, diesel, and crude oil, a zero tariff levy for the import of capital goods, for the implementation of biodiesel plants, the regularization of the General State Budget 2025, and the net profit of the multiple banks and small and medium-sized companies.
The import of capital goods for the agricultural, industrial, construction and mining sectors will be granted a 0% tariff. This will be done within the framework of the coherence of the import substitution program.
In other news, in Peru, the Public Prosecutor's Office of Central Lima intervened in some offices of the Congress of the Republic following a report of an alleged prostitution network. According to local media, the authorities entered the premises of the parliament following a report that the alleged network was operating inside the Congress and involved high-ranking officials. During the raid, the prosecution team collected documents, including camera footage from inside the legislative complex, as well as reports from the Legal and Constitutional Office, the Security Office, and the Human Resources Department. The case was opened following the murder of lawyer Andrea Vidal, whose death revealed the existence of an alleged prostitution network. And now we continue in Peru, as authorities reported on Thursday that the presence of abnormal swells in the north and center of the country will remain until Tuesday, January 7th. According to reports, the northwest swells will mainly affect areas with open or semi-open beaches oriented to the northwest and west. Since last Friday, especially in northern Peru, large waves have damaged dozens of boats and caused flooding in coastal towns where water has reached businesses and homes, and also caused the closure of 101 ports. Authorities recommended that the coastal population and people involved in fishing, sports, and recreational activities take safety measures to avoid accidents and follow the provisions of the corresponding port authorities. Also, the National Meteorological Service of Bolivia maintains the orange alert in 7 departments due to rains. The agency forecasts cloudiness, rainfall, and thunderstorms for the next few days. The alert is specifically directed at areas where rainfall is constant, which increases the risk of river overflows. In this sense, the authorities call on the population to take the necessary precautions during the holiday season. Now we have a second short break coming up, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you will be able to rewatch our interviews, top stories, special broadcastings, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. South Korean authorities on Friday called off an operation to arrest President Yoon Suk Yeol following the declaration of martial law last December. According to reports, the operation was called off at 1:30 p.m. after police officers held a standoff of more than 3 hours with the Presidential Security Service, which refused to provide access to the interior of the house. The spokesman for the Office for Corruption Investigations of high-ranking officials explained that the arrest warrant was virtually impossible to execute and that other measures to proceed with the arrest will be considered. The president's lawyers requested a court order to annul the warrant under the argument that only the prosecutor's office can request such arrest. Also in South Korea, on Friday, authorities began lifting the wreckage of the Jeju airplane that crashed on December 29th at Muon Airport. By using large cranes, sections of the aircraft's scorched fuselage started being lifted, including parts of the engine and the tail. According to on-site investigators, this phase of the recovery operation is expected to uncover more human remains from the 179 fatal victims of Flight 2216 crash. In this context, examinations are being conducted to identify the still unknown cause of the incident, with police vowing to determine the responsibility swiftly, while the nation's transport ministry stated that the procedure could take 6 months to 3 years. And the Brazilian Air Force began analyzing on Thursday the recordings from the black box of the plane that crashed on December 25th in Kazakhstan, killing 38 people of the 67 that were on board. The investigation will help to indicate what caused the crash of the aircraft manufactured by the Brazilian company Embraer. Technicians and specialists from the Center for Aeronautical Accident Research and Prevention analyzed the material, accompanied by experts from Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, and Russia. The data will be used for the reconstruction of the events with virtual reality animation in 3 dimensions, determining the plane's trajectory, speed, flight altitude, and the performance of the commands. And in Montenegro, thousands of residents gathered in Cetinje to honor the 12 victims killed after a shooting in the small town. Government authorities declared that 3 days of mourning and cancelled all planned New Year celebration throughout the country. Statements from the town's residents point to the government's inaction in the events that have been taking place for past several years. With a population of around 620,000, the small Adriatic nation is known for its gun culture, with many of its citizens traditionally owning weapons. We go now to India as authorities moved 337 tons of toxic waste from Bhopal disaster to a waste disposal plant under heavy security measures. The toxic waste was transported in airtight bags in 12 large containers, escorted by dozens of police, ambulances, and firemen to avoid incidents. The waste will be completely disposed of in a plant located in Pitambur, about 200 kilometers from Bhopal. The waste will be combined with reactive substances and stored in small bags until incineration, which is scheduled to begin in about 3 months. 4 decades ago, in this same city, the worst industrial disaster in history occurred, killing 5,295 people, according to government figures. And in other news, the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, announced the celebration of the Carifesta Festival in her country as an opportunity to consolidate resilience in the region. In her message as newly inaugurated President of the Caribbean Community, CARICOM, the head of the government announced that between August 22nd and 31st, Barbados will host the 15th edition of the Carifesta. Mottley invited representatives from all over the Caribbean to participate in the Caribbean Festival of the Arts, also known as Carifesta, an international multicultural event organized periodically by Caribbean countries. And on January 3rd, we remember the anniversary number 192 of the illegitimate occupation of the Argentine Islas Malvinas by British forces. On that date, in 1833, the territory of Islas Malvinas was illegally occupied by British forces, evicting the Argentine authorities legitimately established there. The almost bicentennial British occupation and the Argentine permissiveness consolidated day by day before the world the British illegal possession of this territory. According to the last Argentine constitutional reform of 1994, the recovery of these territories and the full exercise of sovereignty in agreement with the principle of international law constitute a permanent and unrenounceable objective of the Argentinian people. And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and also on TikTok. For TeleSUR English, my name is Belén de los Santos. Thank you for watching.